The two pilgrims called to vain confidence. Groans were the only answer they heard. Then it began to rain and thunder. Lightning flashed in a dreadful manner and the water rose fast. They searched but could not find their way back to the highway. They soon learned it was easier to go out of the way than it was to return. At last, they came to a little shelter where they sat down till daybreak. Being weary, they fell asleep. Now, not far from this place was Doubting Castle, which was owned by the huge and dreadful giant Despair. Walking up and down in the fields the following morning, the giant caught sight of Christian and Hopeful asleep on his grounds. In a grim and surly voice, he bade them awake. When he demanded of them what they were doing on his grounds, they told him they were pilgrims who had lost their way. Giant Despair then seized them for trespassing and drove them before him into Doubting Castle. The giant locked them up in a dungeon where they lay for 3 days and 3 nights, sleeping on stones and breathing the foul air. They were left without a bite to eat or a drop to drink. Seeing no hope of release, they began to despair. After Giant Despair had gone to bed, he told his wife, Diffidence, that he had taken a couple of prisoners and cast them into his dungeon for trespassing on his grounds. She advised him that he should beat them without mercy. In the morning, Giant Despair went down to the dungeon and beat the pilgrims so unmercifully that they could neither help themselves nor turn over on the floor, but they endured the suffering without a word. The next night, hearing that the prisoners were still alive, No Faith advised her husband to bid them destroy themselves. So again, Giant Despair went to them. He told them in a surly voice that they would likely never get out alive and that they had better take their own lives. But Christian and Hopeful tried to comfort each other and so continued throughout another day in their pitiable condition. No Faith next counseled her husband to take them to the castle yard and show them the bones and skulls of those who had already been killed for trespassing. Though they were terrified at the fearful sight, the two pilgrims still refused to kill themselves. So Giant Despair threw them back into the dungeon and also consulted his wife. "I fear," she said, "that they have picklocks by means of which they hope to escape." "I will search them in the morning," said the giant. In the dungeon again, Christian suddenly exclaimed, "I just remembered I have a key called Promise. I believe it will open any lock in Doubting Castle." "Take it out and try," said Hopeful. When Christian tried his key in the dungeon door, it flew open with ease, and Hopeful and Christian both stole out. Opening the big iron gate, however, was desperately hard. When it finally did open, it made such a creaking noise that it woke Giant Despair. As the giant jumped up, his legs gave way and he fell down in a fit so that he could not go after them. The two pilgrims escaped and came to the king's highway where they were safe once more. When Christian and Hopeful had passed back over the turnstile, they felt they should do something to prevent other pilgrims from falling into the hands of Giant Despair. They decided to erect a pillar on which they inscribed the warning, "Over the stile is the way to Doubting Castle, which is kept by Giant Despair, who despiseth the king of the celestial country and seeks to destroy his holy pilgrims." The two pilgrims continued their journey till they reached the Delectable Mountains.